This Saturday, September 20th, WWE presents the first ever WrestlePalooza PLE airing on ESPN. Of course, it's an historic event for World Wrestling Entertainment as it will mark the first main roster PLE to air on ESPN, switching over from Peacock as part of the brand new media rights deal that WWE recently signed. With that in mind, and WWE's desire to build up WrestlePalooza in the future as a PLE on the level of the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania and SummerSlam, could Paul Triple H Levesque and his WWE creative team have some major surprises up their sleeve in the form of some major returns. In this countdown video, we're going to give you 5 possible major returns that could take place this weekend at WWE WrestlePalooza. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. And this Saturday, September 20th, we have WWE's first ever WrestlePalooza PLE. As I mentioned in the intro, it's going to be the first main roster PLE that's going to be airing on ESPN as part of this brand new media rights deal, with all main roster PLEs previously airing on Peacock, now moving over to ESPN. It's a loaded card and it's going to be a loaded event. As I mentioned in the intro too, WWE and TKO officials have gone on the record saying they want to build WrestlePalooza up to a show that's equal to the likes of the Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, and WWE's biggest PLE of the year, that being WrestleMania. With that being said, could we see some major returns at the weekend? We're going to get into 5 possible major returns we could see take place in Indianapolis, Indiana. And let's begin with Stephanie McMahon. Now, this one actually feels like a pretty good bet. And the reason why it feels like a pretty good bet is because WWE, whenever they start something new or they embark on a new era, they always have someone kick it off, don't they? Whether it is Paul Triple H Levesque standing in the ring like he did to open up Raw on Netflix, whether it is Stephanie McMahon when she introduces and welcomes everyone to the Royal Rumble, or welcomes us to one of the nights of WrestleMania or one of the nights of SummerSlam to announce the attendance, the capacity. Stephanie McMahon is usually around for these big events, and we have seen her multiple times. Now, we don't really know officially what her role is in WWE anymore. Of course, previously she was the chief brand officer for a long period of time. Then, once she announced a hiatus from the company or was taking a leave from the company, then the Vince McMahon scandal happened. Then she came back as the interim CEO. Then she was named as a co-CEO alongside Nick Khan when Vince McMahon had retired. But then Vince McMahon forced his way back into the company. Of course, that was to merge it with the UFC to form TKO. When that happened, when he forced his way back into World Wrestling Entertainment in January of 2023, McMahon announced her resignation from the company. But then at WrestleMania 40, this was, of course, after Vince McMahon had resigned as the executive chairman of TKO following the Janelle Grant lawsuit being filed in January. Stephanie McMahon made her return on night 2 to welcome all the fans in attendance. Since then, we've seen her multiple times, not in any storyline role, but we've seen her on drafts, SummerSlams, Royal Rumbles. As recently as SummerSlam, she was in attendance. She was there. Evolution, of course, over the summer. She was in attendance as Joe Tessitore's co-host for the event. Of course, she's got her podcast series with WWE that she drops episodes, I think it's every other week. And she's also usually present in some form at the countdown shows or the kickoff shows where the countdown panel, whether it is Jackie Redmond, Big E, or Michael Cole, or Wade Barrett, or someone like that, usually has Stephanie McMahon on at some points. So given the fact that it's WWE's first PLE on ESPN, of course, Stephanie McMahon did also have a series with ESPN on ESPN Plus titled Stephanie's Places, in which she interviewed WWE superstars of the past and the present, finding out more about their careers, their lives. Stephanie McMahon already has a tie-in with ESPN, so you feel like to promote people to go back and watch that series, to promote the podcast, Stephanie McMahon is a recognizable face of WWE. You would feel like at some point in the show, you probably see Stephanie McMahon, whether it's to announce the attendance, whether it's to welcome us to the show, whether she's just shown as one of the legends at ringside or something like that. You feel like Stephanie McMahon at some point will probably show up. So I think it was a pretty safe bet. We can see the former WWE Women's Champion and maybe more importantly, former co-CEO of WWE back on WWE television this weekend in Indianapolis. Now, before we get on to the next name on this countdown list. A reminder, this video is brought to you in collaboration with all of our affiliates. That includes NordVPN. You can see right there. As I mentioned, this is a big weekend for WWE with all of their main roster PLEs moving from Peacock over to ESPN. Now, for fans in the United States, this has led to some concern with the economy, how it is, and with inflation and what have you, about whether they're even going to be able to afford to watch WWE PLEs moving forward, because they'll have to pay to watch them on ESPN, sign up to another streaming service. How many subscriptions have you got at this point? Well, what you can do is you can watch all WWE PLEs as part of your Netflix subscription, just like we do over here in the UK. And trust me, it is much easier that way. All you have to do is get a VPN, such as NordVPN. You can scan that QR code right there. You can click the link in the video description. It'll also be pinned in the comment section. And you can get up to 70%, 77% off plus 3 months extra if you're in the United States. All you've got to do is use our link, get yourself NordVPN, and then you can change your location to international territory like here in the UK, where we get all of our WWE content through Netflix. That's Raw, SmackDown, NXT, WWE main roster PLEs like WrestlePalooza, NXT PLEs. Saturday night's main event airs for free on YouTube, so you can watch all of your WWE programming like we do here in the UK through a Netflix subscription, all for free on YouTube. All you've got to do is get a VPN, use NordVPN. They're reliable, they're cost effective, and you can watch WWE as you want to by saving yourself some money. It's another way to support the channel as well. Your support is really much appreciated. Let's move on to the next potential major return. That is Ilya Dragunov. Now, we have been hearing for months about Ilya Dragunov and a potential return to WWE television. And when he initially suffered his torn ACL injury in 2024, we were told that September was a good period of time in which he could possibly return. Well, we're in September right now, and we're waiting for the former NXT champion to come back to WWE TV. Now, it's not been an easy road for Ilya Dragunov on the main roster, has it? Now, he was called up to the main roster to Monday Night Raw in the 2024 WWE draft, and then not really that long afterwards, he suffered a torn ACL injury in late September when he was wrestling Gunther at a live event. Now, consequently, Dragunov was reportedly to be sidelined anywhere between 6 to 9 months. Now, initially, just a couple of months after he suffered the injury, there were reports that he was spotted at the WWE Performance Center, and there was this miraculous recovery, and maybe he was going to be back way quicker than people thought. That hasn't turned out to be the case, but according to a lot of different reports, such as from Corey Hayes of Body Slam, the Mad Dragon has been rehabbing multiple times a day and is plotting his in-ring return as soon as he can. Recently, WrestleVote's Q&A was saying that actually he was spotted at the Performance Center. He's been spotted at the Performance Center really ever since he suffered the injury. Now, there's been not too much discussion of whether or not he's actually been in the ring. It's kind of common practice for these wrestlers to report at the WWPC to resume in-ring training or just to give updates on their medical or actually have rehab there as well. Now, it was reported by PWN that back in March that the tentative time period for his comeback wasn't expected to fall before September. But as we've seen here, we're now in September, so I guess it's at any point. Now, according to a recent report as recently as a couple of weeks ago, this came from bodyslam.net, WWE has internally discussed a potential program between Ilya Dragunov and Rusev to possibly happen once Dragunov returns to WWE television. Now, the report did add, quote, "Nothing is finalized, but the feud could be the one that introduces Dragunov back to television." In August, Body Slam's Corey Hayes shared a gif of Dragunov captioning it with "The time draws near," leaving many to believe that Dragunov's return will be coming sooner rather than later. He later shared that though Dragunov's return is coming, fans shouldn't expect it in the next few weeks. But again, that was sort of back in early August, so we're now about 6 weeks later. So it feels like it should be happening any time now, which again isn't really super useful, is it, when you're doing these kind of videos? But Dragunov certainly could be someone that does appear at some point very, very soon. Now, as for what match could he be involved in, there doesn't really appear to be one singular situation where he could appear, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. When it comes to Dragunov, it could be just an in-ring segment. World Heavyweight Champion Gunther isn't currently booked for the show, but that doesn't mean he won't appear. We've seen situations in the past, like Bad Blood back in 2024, when Gunther appeared and a Goldberg situation happened, and that led to a retirement match in the future. We could just see a return vignette for Ilya Dragunov. So there's many different ways that Dragunov could be reintroduced. And again, given that it's such a newsworthy show, being WWE's debut on ESPN, that they may want to sort of set the stage or plant seeds for potential returns if they don't happen at WrestlePalooza. And a return vignette for Dragunov feels exactly like something that possibly could happen. Let's move on and talk about Paige. Paige recently, the former Saraya in All Elite Wrestling, has been kind of opening up on the possibility of a WWE return. We've already recently seen a former WWE Divas champion, actually multiple Divas champions, return to WWE television this year in the form of WWE Hall of Famer Nikki Bella. But more recently, we've seen AJ Lee also return to WWE TV. And lots of people have said, well, now that Saraya is gone from AEW, of course, she exited earlier this year, but she hadn't been seen on AEW television since 2024. She had said that she was going to take some time away from pro wrestling. She wanted to launch a series of projects, including her podcast. She was also releasing a memoir. But many people have naturally said, well, at some point it feels inevitable that Paige is going to go back to WWE, particularly considering that she was wrestling for AEW. So some of the medical hurdles that maybe would have blocked her from returning to in-ring action for WWE in the past seem to have been overcome. And it's something that she's openly spoken about as well. In a recent interview on Busted Open Radio, she did an interview with Dave LaGreca and Natalia Neidhart promoting her memoir. She revealed that her time from wrestling recently has actually reignited the fire that made her one of WWE's most popular stars during her tenure there. She said, quote, "I miss being in the locker room. I miss being around people like Natty. I miss my sisters. I miss being a part of these things." Now, when talking about AJ Lee's surprise return, she said that also hit home to her. She called Lee her fairy godmother, explaining, quote, "She was one that took me under her wing when I first came up on the roster and we traveled together. When I watched AJ, I've watched that over and over again because she's my fairy godmother." Now, she said that also people still like me. They still want me to be around. She said that's probably the best feeling in the world for me. She also spoke about how obviously her WWE career was cut short. She obviously had to retire in 2018 following serious neck injuries. She says now her health is back to where it needs to be. She said, quote, "My career was cut short with the neck, but now my neck is healthy. I'm in full health. I want to start training again. I want to get in the ring and bring back the Paige that I was in NXT. So she opens up and says that she wants to go back to wrestling. If she goes back to wrestling, you feel like it probably would be in WWE. There is a significant women's match taking place at WrestlePalooza. We are going to have a brand new WWE Women's World Champion. Io Sky is taking on Stephanie McCur for the vacant championship. Of course, it was vacated by Naomi after she announced her pregnancy. And there is a lack of female talent currently on the Raw roster. There have been several high-profile injuries or exits, in the form of Liv Morgan, who was injured earlier this year when she was due to feud with Nikki Bella. And it feels like Nikki Bella's kind of been lost a little bit ever since then, since the plans got derailed. We obviously have had the exit of Naomi as well, as she now is on maternity leave as she prepares to welcome her and Jimmy Uso's child. So there certainly is a lack of star power, or a need for extra star power, perhaps is probably the better way of saying that. And maybe Paige can come back and feud with Stephanie McCur or an Io Sky, have something different there. We've got AJ Lee back in the fold as well on Raw in the Raw Women's Division, most likely to continue to feud with Becky Lynch post WrestlePalooza. But I wouldn't be shocked if we could see potentially Paige return and maybe she inserts herself into a feud with maybe an Io Sky or a Stephanie McCur, or maybe somewhere else. Maybe she gets involved in the mixed tag team match because she's got history with AJ Lee and Becky Lynch. We'll have to wait and see, but it feels like at some point, probably in the not too near distant future, Paige will find herself back in WWE. Next up, we have Rey Mysterio. We haven't seen the WWE Hall of Famer in in-ring action since right before WrestleMania. WWE certainly got hit big with the injury bug earlier this year, and Rey Mysterio, he was so unfortunate, wasn't he? He was due to face off against Chad Gable's El Grande Americano at WrestleMania 41, and on the SmackDown before WrestleMania, he got hurt. He suffered a torn groin in a six-man tag team match. It caused him to miss his planned match with El Grande Grande Americano at WrestleMania. He was replaced by Rey Fenix. He also, of course, was part of the big announcement that WWE had acquired AAA that weekend. But you feel like with this sort of launch of WWE/TKO's version of AAA, he was probably meant to be more heavily involved in terms of in-ring anyway. He still appeared at some of the shows and done announcements, and also was there to induct Conan into the AAA Hall of Fame. But he actually opened up on this injury as to how much of a freak it was. He said, quote, "So I was explaining to someone that I tore my groin. He goes, 'How did it happen? Was it when they pulled you?' I said, 'No. The guy that I was wrestling stood in front of me. He bailed out the ring underneath the bottom rope, and I went to chase him, and when I pushed off with my left leg, I just heard a rip. Like, that's it. I tore my groin like that, and yeah, usually it happens on the simplest shit.'" He said that it wasn't going to be keeping him out of action for too long. Previously, he said that he thought he'd be back by August, which has come and gone. He said, quote, "Good, pretty good," about his recovery from injury. "I started my PT, not to mention I had a busted eardrum as well, so I fixed that during my time off. I'm on the road to recovery. I should be back hopefully by August." Now, again, August has come and gone. We're over halfway through September at this point. According to a more recent report from PW Insider, this was actually just about a week or so ago, the legendary luchador is in the final stages of his recovery from a torn groin and is getting closer to making his return to the ring. As for when that will exactly happen, we don't exactly know. As for what match it could happen in, again, it doesn't feel like there is a potential one there. But as I said, just because on the match card there doesn't seem to be a way that Mysterio could be put in, that doesn't mean it won't happen. His son, Dirty Dominic Mysterio, is a dual champion at the moment. Not only is he the WWE Intercontinental Champion, but he's also the AAA Mega Champion, a championship which he told his father to put around his waist at the recent AAA and WWE Worlds Collide show. So who's to say there isn't an in-ring segment with Dominic Mysterio and Rey Mysterio gets physical? Who's to say that doesn't happen? So I don't think you can rule out any possibility there of Rey Mysterio getting physical, making his return. Maybe, like a lot of other legends and Hall of Famers, he's just shown at ringside as well. But Rey, he's on his way back to WWE in-ring action very, very soon. No doubt about that. And finally, could we see the great one, The Rock, make his return to WWE television for the first time since Elimination Chamber? We haven't seen The Rock in quite some time, have we? But this is a big event for WWE, as we saw earlier this year with Raw's debut episode on Netflix. The great one, he was there. Not only, he wasn't really there as The Rock, was he? Yes, he came out to the final boss music, but he actually handed over his People's Championship. He kind of turned babyface by applauding Cody Rhodes, and he was more there as Dwayne Johnson. He was more there as a member of the TKO Board of Directors, which of course he is. Now, The Rock did later on reappear on WWE television to announce that WrestleMania 42 was taking place in New Orleans. Remember when that was still a thing? Now it's taking place in Las Vegas. But then he began the storyline of wanting the soul of the American Nightmare of Cody Rhodes, which resulted in that infamous Elimination Chamber segment of The Rock being flanked by Travis Scott, Cody Rhodes telling The Rock to go F himself, and then John Cena turning heel. And we felt like we'd got the new version of the NWO, didn't we? Rock, Scott, Cena was going to be this villainous faction, and Cena had sold out to The Rock. The only problem was, we never saw The Rock again. And we only saw Travis Scott one more time in the main event of WrestleMania, in one of the worst main events in WrestleMania recent history. And that segment, that whole thing, went nowhere. We never saw The Rock again. He appeared on the Pat McAfee show shortly after WrestleMania and revealed that he actually said, you know what, I think the final boss has kind of done its part here. And actually, he really did want Cody Rhodes to turn heel. And Cody Rhodes and people in WWE said, nah, we're not really interested in that. We don't think that's a good idea. So The Rock said, right, well, I'll appear again when I do think it's a good idea. Or when you've decided that's a good idea and you want me back here, then I'll come back. Until then, see you later. I'm not going to participate anymore. And the whole John Cena heel run in this retirement tour didn't work, so much so they had to turn him babyface just before SummerSlam, and Cena's been on a much better run as of late. But as I've said, this is a major moment for WWE and TKO. This is a brand new media rights deal. This is the beginning of a new deal for distribution domestically for their WWE main roster PLEs. They've got great exposure on ESPN. And because of that, WWE, and maybe more importantly TKO, whether that be Ari Emanuel, Mark Shapiro, or of course, Nick Khan, WWE's president, they may want The Rock to be there to really heighten the pomp and circumstance that WWE brings and to add some extra star power. So whether that is The Rock appearing after the Cody Rhodes match against Drew McIntyre for the Undisputed WWE Championship to say, I'm still looking for your soul. Whether that's The Rock appears after John Cena versus Brock Lesnar to say, oh, by the way, John, I'd like to be your final opponent in Washington, D.C. Or I'd like to tease a future WrestleMania match. Or I'd like to tease possibly wrestling at WrestleMania 43 in Saudi in 2027. However it may be. Or maybe just The Rock opens the show at some point and nobody expected The Rock to appear, but they're on ESPN and finally The Rock's come back to WWE and finally The Rock's come back to ESPN. Maybe it's going to be something like that. But usually on these really, really big shows, they decide that they need Dwayne, and they need Dwayne to shake hands and press the flesh, if you will, of ESPN officials to make them happy. So we'll have to wait and see when it comes to that. Or is it a case of, once again, The Rock still maybe a little bit out of favor with WWE because he didn't get what he wanted earlier this year and it's all been blown up? We'll have to wait and see. But given the fact it's on ESPN, I don't think you can rule out an appearance from the final boss. So there you go, guys. There are 5 potential major returns that could happen at WWE WrestlePalooza this Saturday. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Which names have I missed? Which ones are more likely than others? Let me know your reactions, your hot takes as per usual. A reminder, we will be live with a WrestlePalooza watch-along and a post-show on Saturday. So be sure to subscribe, click the notification bell, you'll be notified when we go live and you can get all of your comments in. And also remember to take advantage, if you are in the United States or around the world for that matter, but particularly in the United States, use our link to get NordVPN. You can scan the QR code right there. You can click the link in the video description below. It'll be pinned in the comment section. You can get up to 77% off plus 3 months extra free. You can change your location to international territories like here in the UK, and you can watch every WWE show as part of your Netflix subscription, and that sounds a lot better than going to all different cable services and network shows and different streaming services. It's all in one place. You could do that. All you got to do is get NordVPN. It is much appreciated if you use that link. There you go, guys. That is the latest countdown video for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.